Hola, sweet friends. Welcome to Love Lab MD, the only place for highly ambitious women to be our authentic feminine selves while discussing intimate relationship topics. Love Lab MD is a non-judgmental space to seek and give relationship advice and power couple tips. We will learn how to authentically lead with love so that we can deepen the connection and enhance the intimacy between our love and ourselves. And I am your host, a doctor mom in a dual physician relationship and a marriage and intimacy coach, Dr. Kate Mangona. Bienvenidos. Welcome, sweet friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have another treat, Dr. Seema Desai. And I met Seema and her husband at the White Coat Investor Conference this year. So that was in February 2024. Instantly clicked, and she's also a friend of a friend. So we connected through that way. And we're both in the coaching world, both in the medical professional world. So I can't wait to introduce you to Dr. Seema. Dr. Seema Desai is a credentialed executive coach and speaker specializing in performance and well-being. Her coaching helps high-achieving, ambitious leaders go from stressed, overwhelmed, and frustrated to productive, effective, and fulfilled. And she is the loving wife of Manish, who we heard earlier, and the supportive mother to two very strong, intelligent, and brave children, a son of 12 years old and daughter of 9 years. So welcome. Thank you for joining us, Seema.
I'm so excited to be here.
So anything I left out of your intro? Who else are you? You leave out some of the information I noticed. I left some information.
Yes, and that's my new favorite tool. Yes, and like all of us, there's so many different facets to our lives. So yes, to fill in the gaps, I am co-host of the podcast Happy and Human. I am deeply, I love speaking. I love yoga. I love coaching, and I love blending all of those things together in my own unique way. I could go on and on, but I think the biggest thing that I really love sharing with people is something that I believe very, very deeply. And I'm fascinated by what this means for me. And I'm fascinated by with helping other people understand what it means for them. And that is this: inner peace creates external peace, and inner conflict creates external conflict. So I'm really fascinated with what it is for me. How am I talking to myself? Whether that's how I, learn a new yoga pose, or what I'm thinking when my middle schooler rolls his eyes at me, or, when Manish cuts me off. Like I'm fascinated with understanding how it is that I'm talking to myself and how I can get to a sense of authentic peace so that I can actually be the person I want to be, instead of snapping and just then spending hours in mom guilt and regret and shoulda, coulda, woulda, which totally also still happens.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I just had an inner conflict just now when you said your husband's name, and I was like, I've said it wrong the whole podcast I had with him.
Okay. Can I pause? Okay. So I noticed that I was doing this 3 separate times this weekend when I was at a conference, and I noticed that you just did it too. And we as women, we take on this responsibility for other people, unspoken responsibility that, we see is so true, right? So real. And so for, like in this case, first of all, it's not incorrect. It's another yes and. There are tons of Indian people who say their name Manish. Not incorrect.
Okay.
I would say my husband's family they do it a little differently, and it is Manish. Uh-huh. And also that could have been his responsibility to set you straight.
That's okay. He went the whole hour.
Yeah, no, totally fine. So you're
let's
good.
Talk about him. Let's talk about him. How many years ago did you guys meet? How many years have you been married? Okay. And tell us about the story.
Okay. So 2003, February 9th, 2003. I walked into a bar in College Station, Texas, handed over my ID to the bouncer. And as I looked up, I see this tall Indian guy, and I thought, oh my gosh, he looks so cute. I really I just felt this magnetism. It was beyond words. And I wasn't really very confident in myself at the time. I wasn't totally like I was in high school, but I was I think a sophomore in college, and I was visiting a friend in College Station for the weekend. So I was really out of my element, and I lived at home for college. My parents were really protective. And so I just felt like a fish out of water. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in a different city. I never go to bars. I'm, looking at this guy, and I come from an upbringing where dating is like a huge no-go. Like, don't even consider it. Until, of course, you graduate college, and then, something's wrong with you because you're not married yet, right? So
Yes.
go there. But yeah, so it was just sort of this instant magnetism. And we just immediately connected. I went out to shake his hand because he actually turned out to be a friend of a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went to shake his hand, he went to hug me, which is weird because he's not a hugger.
Uh-huh.
And so then there's this awkward moment of like, where's my hand? Why? Like, dear God, I hope it's crunched up against his abs and not his And so, so we just sort of really honestly just hit it off. And that was that. We just sort of started talking, and I was very clear on what was going to be sanctioned for me. And also, those just happened to be the things that I wanted in a partner. And I don't even know at 20, like how do you know? But I feel like I really, truly did know. I wanted someone from the same cultural background for me. I wanted someone who not only just like Indian, I really wanted someone who, my family's from the state of Gujarat. I wanted someone who also spoke Gujarati and was from there and was familiar with that, what that was like, because the cultures are so different, even from north to south, right? As you probably very well know.
Yeah.
So, just having a similar outlook on family and religion and education. And I think I asked him, like, do you smoke? Because if you smoke, like, I'm done talking to you. Like, I had it very clear. This is what I wanted and this is what I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And we dated for 5 years. He was in med school at the time. And we just sort of long distanced it, if you can believe it, which is so crazy because I feel like, do you feel like your older, like, friends now at this stage that are single, long distance is like, oh no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, now it's a lot harder, I feel like, because if you're long distance now at the age we're in, when are you ever going to be together?
Yeah.
Because like back when we were younger, it's like because we were in school or something. You were in school or you were finishing up things. But yeah, I had a really good friend a few years ago who was in this long distance relationship. And I think after, I can't remember if it was a year or 2 years, but she's like, hey, you keep saying you're moving down here. We're not going to ever be in like married. I don't even know if she really wanted to get married, but she had kids, and it's like, we have to move on. Like, if we're not going to be together, then I have to move on because I need to be with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so different at this age, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how we were definitely not mature enough, because I think our relationship, we argued a lot. There was a lot of, inferiority complex from my end that I didn't know. I think I felt like I had to prove myself to him, that I had to, especially because he's so hyper rational, right? He's kind of.
This is where we have the same husband.
Yeah. This is why the guys, they get along so well. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they like text back, like if I like went through his phone and if I found like, oh, Victor texted again. Oh, Victor texted again. Like, it would not surprise me. Yeah. So anyway, I know they were chatting after the conference quite a bit.
So you fell in love.
I fell in love.
First sight. We're not sure where your hand went, but it's okay because now he's your husband 20 years later.
And now sometimes his hands are not where they're supposed to be. And that's okay. Like, well, we worked through that. But no, so we dated long distance, and that was really, really, really challenging. But we loved each other, and we just knew kind of right away. And the science brain in me is I think if I were to talk to my past self, my past self would look at me right now and be like, lady, you are crazy. Just no. But I really did. In the moment, I felt like my soul recognized his soul. I knew that I was like, oh, there you are. That was literally my thought was, oh, there you are. Yeah, it was a very, very powerful, subtle moment, as most powerful moments are in our lives. I feel like the really, truly powerful ones are subtle. We just don't slow down enough to see them and pay attention to them, right?
This was the first night.
The first night, first 5 minutes, like I hugged him and I felt like I was home, even though my hand was not, I still don't know where it was. But I felt like I was home, like my body just fit his, which was so special. And I still feel like that now. Mm-hmm. But we graduated, fast forward, I graduated dental school. He graduated from he graduated from pediatric residency. And then we got married. And we, had an amazing summer. We had already bought a house in San Antonio. We lived there for a while. And I think we were married 5 years before we got pregnant with our son. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of
5 years. Yeah. Oh, wow. So you were together like 10 years, really, before you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And this is the first time you've mentioned dentist at all.
Oh, oops.
We didn't have it in your bio or your intro. But now we know. So, okay, you went to dental school.
Oh yeah, those 4 years and more. I was training to be a dentist, and that also taxed our dating relationship.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, for those of us who have been to medical school or dental school, that is just an experience like no other, any grad school, like any post-grad. But it was just also for me, okay, well, two things, probably more, but two things. One, I had not been, most of us had gone off to college and had an away from home experience before then upping the game and going to medical school or dental school, right? Like, you knew how to live on your own. You knew how to pay your bills. There's a certain level of adulting that you were already used to. I did not have that. And I firmly believe, like, part of why I, wrote my book was because I wanted to teach kids how to develop, resilience and navigate emotion. And that was not like, I believe we need to teach our kids that. And, for me, I didn't have that. For most of us, I don't think we had that, right? That's all stuff that we learned later. And then for those of us who went to coaching school, that was a whole other life-changing experience where we realized just so much the power of our choices and how that impacts us, right? So it was really, really hard. And then you throw in the fact that it's long distance, and cultural norms and all of that stuff. So we just did not know how to be together. My parents have a very tumultuous relationship. They do not, I think they love each other because they've been married for so long, and that's just kind of, all that stuff. And they're committed and all of it, and they mean well. But in terms of like having a happy marriage, really not being passive aggressive or finding fault or I didn't know how to do any of that. And for South Asian women, and I know for other cultures too, the woman is like, you swallow your pride, right? Like, you swallow your opinion, you stay quiet and don't cause waves. And so you're navigating this whole, like, I see other women not doing that. This doesn't feel good. I feel like, and then it's this whole navigation thing, right?
Okay.
But we've now, we have worked through so much of it. And we have two beautiful kids. We live in Austin. We yoga together. We, take walks. We cook together. He probably does way more cooking than I do, but he's just fantastically amazing, so supportive. And I think it's because we both chose to not only commit to each other, but commit to personal growth and development, and understand that there is always a different way of doing things that might serve us better.
Okay. Okay. So right there, you both chose to commit to personal growth and development. Do you ever have clients, or have you ever seen, right, the scenario where, because I see this a lot, one person in one couple, one person in the relationship loves personal growth, right? They have coaches, they read books, listen to podcasts. They always know that there's more out there for them to learn. And the other person is comfortable. They don't really want to do any of that extra stuff. Do you have any advice for that person who's finding it frustrating that they're the one in the relationship who's on this journey, and like they feel like they have to drag their spouse with them, or that they can't have those conversations they want to have?
Yeah. I that was my personal experience as well. Like, I was the personal growth junkie.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah. It was hard for Manish. And I do have clients that one in particular is coming to mind, who was also a physician couple. And it was the wife. I remember she would describe things to me, and of course I would just see so much of myself in her, in my past self, right? Like feeling stupid, not really feeling like her. So her husband was a surgeon, and so it's just more like, how do you feel stupid, you feel inadequate. How do you go to like voice what you want to do? Like, I want to invest in coaching. And then you are met with all this resistance, right? Or like, hey, I think we should go to this, I don't know, conference. And it's exhausting, right? To have to defend. And I think that's where so many of us might be falling short in our marriages, is we really truly feel like we have to defend, instead of learning how to shift to doing something like explain, like from the place of, this person is on my page, we're on the same team, and I need to understand how they think so that I can explain it well.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. If you come at me with a bunch of numbers, I don't care. I can't function like, okay, I'm not going to say I can't. I don't function easily like that. But if you come to me with an idea, right, a vision, now you have my attention. But if I were to go there and say, Manish, I know I can be a better mom. I know I can this. I know I can that. I don't know. Like, he just doesn't know what to do with that information.
Yep. No, I totally get it. It's like, what's the ROI here? Like, we speak in emotions, or like, but we're going to be living at our, greatest potential. Well, okay. So are we earning $100,000 extra a year, or what's going on?
Yeah. Yes. And the nuance to that is the made up story that's unspoken, which is, are you saying we're not living up to our greatest potential right now? Are you saying you're not happy? Or am I not enough?
Yeah.
Right. That's what can happen when you go and tell your spouse, like, I feel stuck.
Exactly. They hear it as maybe that, like, they're not enough, or they're not inadequate, and they're not right. And then here you're going to go off, and maybe they see it as fear, like you're going to grow in a different direction. I think so many things can be going through people's heads.
So many things. Yeah.
What would you say was like the biggest struggle you guys have gone through? Because you've been together for like 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like 100.
Yeah. There's so much, right? Like the struggle of being long distance when we first started dating, the struggle of figuring out how to be married. And like, I had my clinical job, and it was less hours. I was making really good money, and he was in fellowship.
Okay.
Right. And so it was a lot of working, and we grew up both with scarcity mindset in terms of money, especially. And so, here we are trying to figure out, and we didn't take advantage of traveling. And even if it was for 3 days and he was post call, and like the freedom that we had, we didn't, just because we just didn't know. But the struggle of having to have a successful marriage, or how to have a successful marriage, even figuring out, I was reading a book earlier, and I think it's called Choose Your Enemies Wisely. And it talks about how, it talks about how to have a successful entrepreneurship. But in one of the things, it talks about marriage and how it is very much like, yes, it is emotions. And also, so few people talk about what their goals are, how they see a successful marriage, what it means to be an ideal wife or husband or partner. And so that can create a lot of stickiness for people. And then getting pregnant was not easy, but that was also very tumultuous. There was a lot of moving parts. We were leaving San Antonio, coming to Austin. We didn't really know very many people. Both sets of parents lived far away. It was just a different phase. He was working a ton, and he was up for taking boards, and I was 6 months pregnant. I decided I didn't want to work while I was pregnant because I just didn't want to. And honestly, I didn't love my job. I didn't love the profession of dentistry enough to want to then go and work for a few months and then take maternity leave. And no, I honestly was glad to have, quote unquote, an out to not practice and not be judged for it.
Like, did he? Yeah, he was totally supportive.
Totally fine. Because he knew his own schedule was ridiculous. And so, I mean, he was, and he did know before we even had kids. Like, even when we were dating, I would go to like Pottery Barn Kids and just be like, I want this beautiful nursery. And he's like, okay, we gotta, get through school, and we gotta whatever. And like, you can stay home, and I get it. So we were on the same page about that stuff. But what we didn't know, like, there were, I think, a lot of reasons as to why, but it was a blessing in disguise that I got hit with postpartum depression. And I didn't know what that looked like, what that felt like. I didn't know to expect it. I just had so much pressure on me to breastfeed this kid all the time. And I took it as a personal affront, the idea of feeding him a bottle or supplementing formula or any of that was just, I was such a time stickler too. It was just, everything was, I think I felt so out of control that I tried to exert control on things like how I fed him, when I fed him, what I did with, all of this stuff, to the point where it was such a detriment for me. And I wound up in a really dark place. And I think Arjun was about 5 months old when I was like, I am done. I just want to stop breathing. Like, if I could just fade away, I would never have to hear this kid cry ever again. Wow. And the only reason I didn't was because Manish at that time was working 3-day shifts, if you can believe it.
Oh yeah, he was telling me he's like 24 hours shifts, like the whole. I'm like, you're never home.
You're never home. And I thought, if I stop somehow, I was too scared to actually think about how I would do that. But I just thought, if I stop breathing, then this kid is not going to make it. And I don't have any ill will towards this baby. I just don't want to be here for it. Right. So I was like, well, I'm not really sure what to do. And then from the depths of just all the darkness was like, hold on. I just heard this voice. Hold on, keep going. It's not over. It gets so much better. You just have no idea. Hold on, keep going. So that was a really hard place for even Manish to be in, because he didn't understand. He was, quite frankly, just too busy. I will say we both own a responsibility there. Me advocating for myself, and him actually understanding how it is to hold space for people and validate their emotions and actually see, no, she's really struggling.
Yeah.
Like, this is not normal. And so, yeah, that was a hard time. And it was a defining moment, because I tell people, it's because of that postpartum depression that I did learn to start advocating for myself, that I did, start practicing yoga, which saved my life. I never went to therapy, but I probably should have. That would have been helpful. And I don't know, the yoga was just so powerful that I really felt like it was a lot slower to get the results, but I did get the results.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. A lot of people view yoga as, I mean, it's kind of like a breath. It's like, yoga is the breath. It's like how you breathe, slow down. Some people meditate, during or at the end of yoga. It's not just let's go to class and do a pose, more to it than commercialized yoga.
Yes. So much more to it. And thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's what people think it is. Yeah.
And okay, I know we wanted to hit on the helicopter story that Manish told us a little bit about on his podcast, because you had some clarification points there.
I did have clarification points. And I think it ties actually into what I was just sharing, because it really, truly, the heaviness of it all, the responsibility that I think so many women feel for keeping all of their stuff together and making everybody else happy and running themselves ragged in the process. It got better. All of that got better, but it didn't go away completely. Even when we had Monsi, it was such a better experience, but I was still an angry mom. Like I said things and reacted in ways that I'm just not proud of. And Arjun was only 3 at the time. He was just little. And I remember the helicopter story, he was working and, had this incident happen to where he needed to be in this helicopter and take this child from McLean Children's to Houston. And he called me, and I was already just back at that time. I would literally look at the clock and be like, he normally lets me know at 8:30 when he's leaving to come home in the morning, or 4:00, right? I would wait for 4:00 on service days, where 4:00, and anything outside of that was just why? What is going on? Not realizing that there are sick kids that are dying. And the reason that he's not home is because somebody else's child is having the worst day of their lives. Some parents are having the worst moments of their lives. And I just was so in my own ego, I could not appreciate it. So I will say that. But he called me and he's like, I have this kid. I need to get on this helicopter. I need to transport. And at the time, it just so happened, my older one was homesick with an ear infection. And he also had all the rhinovirus, all the stuff, right? Just whiny and clingy, and nothing made him feel better, of course. And then I had sent her she was in Montessori at the time. And I get a phone call from the teacher going, she's complaining and crying and she's pulling on her ear. And I'm like, So, and then my mom was visiting it at the time. So when you have someone else in your space and then you're trying to navigate a sick kid, you have no self-care for yourself. You don't even know what that looks like. Then you have another kiddo who's 18 months old, and, and I'm like, well, my resident pediatrician isn't even freaking here. Yeah. So I don't know what to do with this. Right. And he's saying well, I'm going to go. But I do remember thinking, thank God my kids, they have an ear infection and they are not fighting for their life right now.
Yeah.
I do remember thinking it and being okay with him going. I knew in my bones it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, I remember not knowing how to make space for the fact that I was still really frustrated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can feel 2 things at once. You can feel emotions at one time. Frustrated, he's not there for you. You have 2 sick kids, and you're probably trying to think about how you can. Your mom. Was your mom helpful at all? Is she somebody you have to?
My mom
feed?
My mom is as helpful as she knows how to be.
Okay. Okay. She's doing the best she can.
She is. Right? Yeah, she really, truly is doing the best that she can. And I don't know that I will really ever forget what it's like to have young kids. I don't know that I won't. And so, to be fair, it had been a long time for her, and she hadn't been around a lot of kids, and she hadn't raised kids in this country. And also, when she was raising me, because I'm an only child, gosh, she was under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Like there were times where they did not know where their next meal was coming from, and they didn't take government assistance. They didn't do any of that. My dad rode on his bike, probably, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 20 miles on his bike to and from work because we couldn't afford a car. Mm. And it didn't matter if it was raining or snowing. We lived in North Texas. It was cold. It was hot. It was all sorts of things. And they made it work. And so, of course, she doesn't remember what it's like. That's perspective that I have now. It's not perspective that I was able to have when my kids were younger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So what advice would you give? Like the people who are out there who are still angry because their spouse is not coming home when they say they're going to come home. And we're like, when I talked with Manish earlier, he's like, he designed the life he has now. He designed his clinic schedule, or not clinic because he doesn't work in clinic, but his critical care schedule so that he takes home a little bit less money, but has less shifts. So he is home more. He says he has all this free time, which I never hear a physician saying ever.
Oh my gosh. He is living it up. Like he's like, I really hate playing golf on Fridays. It's just too busy at the course. And I just look at him and I'm like, oh my God, you are.
Listen to yourself.
I listen, like, do you hear yourself? And it's like, well, pickleball, the courts are wet. I can't go play pickleball, but yeah, he did. He did really, truly. And I think I don't want to own everything about this, but I really, truly feel like, I don't know what led to him having these insights. Maybe it was already always in him, but I do feel like me going on my own personal growth and development journey helped. Mm-hmm. And so to answer your question more directly, to the listeners out here who are thinking like, this is really hard. I am so tired of my spouse not following through on the things that they say that they're going to follow through on. And then when I look, they're like on Netflix or on Reddit or, doing these boys trips or whatever, right? Like first of all, you are not wrong. You are not broken. Neither is he. And your feelings and perspectives are valid. Like, I just want to say that because if that's really truly how you feel things are going right now, shoving those emotions away it's like when you take your toddler out, to HEB or Target or whatever, and they're like, mommy, and you don't listen. And then you're like, you kind of ignore their mommy until all of a sudden they're just screaming. And you're like, oh my God, what happened to this kid? Like, you would think he's obsessed, right? Those emotions are like that. We need to feel them. We need to label them. We need to reflect on them and journal on them and all of these things. And also, multiple things are true at once. Mm-hmm. So for me, I can say I just didn't understand how to advocate for myself. And not to say that was my fault. It was just a skill I didn't have. I wouldn't expect someone to be able to put in a central line if they had never been trained to do so. Mm-hmm. Right? That's really and I feel like my commitment to advocating for myself and committing to personal growth and development really helped shift, because I can't control the world and I can't control what my spouse does or what my kid does, but I can control how I see things. I can control whether or not I listen to my emotions. I can control whether or not I care for myself, not just getting my nails done, although that's fabulous, but really care for myself, get your sleep, go outside, walk in the sun, whatever that means to you, eat well. It's not an all or nothing, I have to do all of these things all the time, but like incorporate that for yourself. If you do not make time for your health, your sickness will, you're going to spend time being sick, right? There's a more eloquent way to say that. You make time for your health or you make time for sickness. Whether that's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just feel like that's so important to dedicate self-care. and dedicate personal growth.
That's what I hear yourself saying is for all the people who might be struggling with getting on the same page, personal growth, or just getting upset at their spouse for not doing certain things that they think they should be doing or they say they're going to do, is focus on yourself. Shift the focus on yourself, how you're feeling. You're not wrong, right? But let's just think about all those feelings you're feeling. Where are they coming from? Do you want to see things differently or not? Right. And take care of yourself. Because there's probably unmet needs, right? Whenever you're frustrated with your spouse for not coming home in time, or you're frustrated because they say they're going to do something that they don't do, the frustration is typically coming not from just something that your spouse said, but from an unmet need. I mean, it's different with every situation. We can't just give you a prescription.
No, we can't give you a prescription, but I will say a framework is helpful in that just creating awareness is so powerful, right? It's just what you said. It's an unmet need. So really asking yourself, what is the unmet need here? How am I feeling? Is really, really, really important. And the other things that would be helpful are how are your other relationships? Because I can venture to guess, I cannot say that this is necessarily 100% true. But if your other relationships are super healthy and super fulfilling, then that's something to look at, right? Like that's likely going to be reflected in your marriage. Versus if you have friendships that are not as fulfilling, or you're constantly feeling judged at work, it's all connected. And we share energy. One of the things that I've been really kind of learning about the last year or two is how big a role quantum physics actually plays in the applications of our daily lives.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, we all are energy, right? Our thoughts are just electrochemical impulses. It's energy, right? Even the phone is made up of atoms, which are packets of energy. So our thoughts have energy. And energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's just, you can only transfer it. You can only shift it. And we're constantly sonaring off of each other. We're constantly, the mirror neurons in our brain, literally, if you're upset, it's going to be way easier for me to just mirror that response and get upset too. And so I had a dear friend of mine, actually, we were talking about this just yesterday. She said, have you ever thought about like when you're laying in bed and you're constantly resonating, right? At an energetic frequency, your dreams, your thoughts, all of it unseen to the human eye, because we are very limited only to our five senses. Right. And she's like, so if your partner or spouse is in a negative state, your body's response, unless you're actively, when you're awake and conscious, taking care of yourself to mitigate that, soften that, increase your own resonance, then you're going to be taken down with them. And it's this negative swirl, right? This negative vortex. And you don't even see it. You don't even know it's happening.
Oh my gosh, while you're sleeping.
While you're sleeping.
What to think about.
Blew my mind, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, that's so true.
Yeah.
We've all felt that when you walk into a room. Kate, when I saw you across the way at the conference, and, it was just, you can tell, right? These people that have the positive energy that you're going to smile, you're going to enjoy talking to them. Even if you don't necessarily agree with all of their beliefs, you're going to be able to have a valuable interchange, right? That's kind of people who resonate like that. You can sense it.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
then right? And then you have the people in the room that's like, everything's awful. Don't talk to me. You're just like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this has been amazing. Okay. So enlightening. I love all of this quantum physics stuff too. And is there anything else? Like, is there anything else? I feel like you shared so much. We went through so many, like your life with before kids, then during kids, a little bit of postpartum depression and learning to advocate yourself. I mean, that's heavy stuff. Anything else you want to leave with our audience today?
I think, I think I touched on a lot. But no one's going to be responsible for you and your feelings and your happiness other than you. They can't, even if they want to. So I would just encourage people. I think one thing I would have done if I known it was an option, if I understood the power of coaching and what it could do, I think that's a gift I would have maybe given myself, or like I might even give when my kids are older. I might actually say, hey, if you guys are interested in getting a relationship coach,
Yeah.
like right as you're first married or before you're married, like get a coach. Really, really get clear with each other so you can set yourself up. I don't have any regrets about how I lived my life because I wouldn't have had all the amazing things happen that have. But take care of yourself. Find that coach that's, whether it's a relationship coach like you, Kate, who really can understand couples and dynamics and really truly can offer supportive solutions for couples, and invest in that, invest in yourself, pay to be in the room with people who have done really amazing things, because all they can do, all those people are interested in, is showing you how to do the same.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's inevitable. I mean, when you hang out with those people, that's just kind of like your natural tendency becomes normal. And I love how no one is responsible for your happiness or your feelings but yourself. It's just like saying, your spouse is not an emotional vending machine. You did not marry yourself. Like, you're in charge of that. And to the coach and the kid thing, yeah, like if I had a coach, I feel like there's a certain confidence that comes when you're young and you grow up like on a soccer team or a basketball team or lacrosse team, whatever it is, because you have coaches who are believing in you, showing your blind spots. I didn't grow up in in that world, and I didn't want to be involved in sports or dance. So I feel like I did kind of miss out, although I don't regret anything about my childhood, just like you. There's a reason it happened the way it is. But if I could do anything, go back to my middle school awkward years, awkward high school even was so awkward for me, and give myself a coach. Like, hey, you're not going to do soccer for soccer. It's like this coach is going to still help you build up your confidence. And people can do that who are outside of sports, that are just like, let's talk about your life type of coach, relationship coach, you know? Yeah. I have several friends now who actually have coaches for their college kids. And they're, I think it's huge advantage. Much better. Yeah, huge.
That's generational wealth that I would want. Like, rather than leaving my kid, yes, of course, would I want to leave them with something? Of course. And there's maybe that's a whole other podcast, right? About how much is too much, because I believe that is true. I think that is invaluable generational wealth that you can share with your kid. That's not actually money.
Yeah.
Right. Like, get your kids, your college age kids, a coach, and, get yourself a coach. Don't do it. If you have not gotten coached yourself, I have people tell me that, like, I'm thinking about becoming a coach, and they've never received a day of coaching.
Never been a coach. Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? I
coached,
but yeah, so I would invest in yourself, a coach is going to get you to where you want to be way faster than you ever could on your own. And that's not to say anything about you and your personal capabilities. It's that we often are never going to see our shortcomings, as we're just going to believe them.
Right.
Blindly.
And it's hard. Like, your parents they will love you, right? They will unconditionally love you. Typically, your parents will. But they're not going to, it's hard to get the same kind of guidance from a parent than it is a coach who's completely objective. Like, having somebody who's not blood related to you and believing in you and like guiding you and lifting you up when you're down it's on a different level. Of course, we all want parents like that too.
Of course. Right. Our kids have parents as coaches, and it's still not, we're at the end of the day, we're still mom.
You're still mom. We're still mom. Yep.
Like my middle schooler, there's definitely moments where he's like, you do not know what you were saying, even though, And that's okay. That's a normal parent-child thing. And also that's why we have coaches. That's why we don't rely on our spouses for all of that, right? We need some space. We need some space to be able to figure out what it is so we can break past it and keep going and elevate others in the process.
Absolutely. Now go grab that book. Show us your book in the background.
Oh, you want me to grab my book? Okay.
Show us your book. Tell us where we can you get up and get it? Or you want me to go get it? You got it. Good.
My stylist she suggested I get this Vori pantsuit.
Okay.
It's super comfortable. But I was sitting crisscross applesauce and it's wide-legged and it was pulling on my, anyway, it's having issues.
Well, I love that you have a stylist.
Oh my gosh. Liz, you are amazing. If you are looking for a stylist, she's not paid me to do this. She is not Liz Wendler Styling. She is fantastic. And she's just the sweetest person alive. It's a new thing. I don't think I've really experienced things like this before. And it's bringing up all sorts of weird, worthiness issues. She had me buy this top and I had a real freak out moment. Do you even deserve this top? Is this even who spends money on this? It was a real, I am growing in every way, shape, and form right now.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Way deeper than clothes, I'll tell you that. Okay, so this is my book.
Yeah, tell us where we can find you and a little bit about, you have to put your book. Yes, exactly.
There we go. It's a book.
Yep. Connected. Okay.
Discovering. You can find this on Amazon in paperback and Kindle, but it is all about navigating your emotions, whether you're 8 or 80. And it's really full. It's meant to be used as a resource. So what happened very, very quickly, I was getting all of this amazing, life-changing, these concepts and realizations for myself as I was getting coached. And when the pandemic started, I told my kids, I'm going to share these tools with you so that you can help mommy stay accountable and be the best mommy that she can be, right? We're going to try to not yell. We're going to try to, work things out and all of this other stuff. And so, the brain does brain things. And when you give a child tools, they just start using them. And so Manish and I would hear from downstairs, we would hear them playing upstairs and they would be one of them would get upset and the other one would be I see that you're upset. Can we breathe together? Right? I know that's not really you talking, that's your inner guard. And I'm what is happening? What? How old are you? So there's adults that can't do this. And so I really wanted everybody, every family, everyone, whether you are a singular leader or a parent leader or whatever it may be, to have tools and resources at your disposal to use as a resource. So that's what Connected is all about. It explains concepts. There's thought. There's reflection questions, discussion questions that you can have with your kiddos. There's tools to use when you're upset. There's tools to use to help you stay in a place that's connected at peace, to where you're less likely to be limbically hijacked. It's a really, really special piece of work that, it's been life-changing for me.
Well, I'm in the process of reading it with my children, especially my oldest daughter, because she says, I'm always in a rush. Can you just be in less of a rush, mommy? Less of a rush. And I'm yeah, I know. I gave up urgency this year. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna review that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
She holds me accountable, and she'll do this. She'll walk away from me going, 6.5.
That girl is set for life. If I did not have that skill at 6, and if I had, world, watch out.
Exactly.
Right?
Okay, so get that book on Amazon. And then where else can we find you?
You can find Happy and Human podcast. Obviously, you can find me on the podcast, but my website is drseemadesai.com. Kate, I'm sure you're going to link this in the show notes, correct?
Yeah.
So everything's on there about my breathwork course. I thinking about hosting a retreat in the fall. So, all of those things details are coming soon. What it's like to work with me as a coach, all of that can be found there. And there's some
Perfect.
freebies
Yeah.
on there as
And
well.
I've got your Instagram, your LinkedIn, and yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm so happy. I'm so happy we got the other story. Manish was amazing too. His episode was fabulous too, but it's always nice to get both ends. So
Yeah.
thanks so much for coming on, Seema, Dr. Desai.
Thank you so much for having both of us. It was really fun. I can't wait to listen to both of these episodes and kind of do a postmortem. So
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I will see you soon.
all right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
An amazing interview with Dr. Seema Desai. I have so many take-home points. So, number one, your inner peace becomes your outer peace. If you take care of yourself on the inside, it reflects on the outside. Your inner chaos becomes your outer chaos. So, take care of yourself. Number two, no one else is responsible for your happiness and your feelings as much as you are. No one else. Your mother may help you when you're younger. Your mother, your father, maybe they still try to. But nobody actually really knows what it's like to be inside your body, inside your brain, inside your heart, except for you. So having anticipatory needs, expecting your spouse to be there for your anticipatory needs, or your friends or your parents, that doesn't work. You have to be there for yourself. So next time you're angry or frustrated or upset that somebody didn't follow through on their commitment and you're let down, it's okay. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry. And then you get to decide when it is you're going to fulfill that need that you need on your own. And maybe this friend had something else going on. Maybe your spouse had maybe they were life flighting a person to a different hospital. When we're in the moment, we just don't see, right? We don't see the full picture when we're so deep in our own little self-pity circle. Or maybe you do have a couple sick kids at home and you're going crazy and you just need a break. And your spouse is taking care of a dying child. Maybe it's time to reach out for somebody's help outside of the two of you. Maybe you hire a babysitter. Maybe you fly your mom or dad or aunt into town. Maybe you reach out to your best friend who you know has children herself, but maybe she wouldn't mind just listening to you on the phone. Sometimes that's all we need, is somebody to listen to us. So if you're ever at the depth of your despair and you feel like you just want to fade away, number one, please go get help. Number two, if you're not quite there yet, listen to that little voice inside of you that says, hold on, keep going. Feel the frustration, feel the anger, feel the sadness, and then go meet your unmet need. Figure out what it is. Number three, quantum physics. Quantum physics is our life. Did you know, maybe you don't remember this from physics class, did you know that energy cannot be created nor destroyed? It is shared. So other people's energy bounces off of you and goes into them, right? Or your energy gets shared when you walk into the room. When you walk into a room of people, you are soaking up the rays of other people's energy, which is why it's so important, as Seema said, to pay to be in the room with people who have good energy. You don't always have to pay. Sometimes you do. When you go to medical school, you certainly have to pay. When you go to dental school, you certainly have to pay to be in that energy. When you go to masterminds, retreats, conferences, sometimes it is the best investment you could ever make in your life, better than any real estate venture, better than any stock, is investing in the energy of other people. And then number four, generational wealth. You don't have to think about it as just creating millions, not billions, to leave to your heirs, to leave a legacy, to donate to medical buildings or to the city. You can think of generational wealth as sharing knowledge, sharing opportunities, creating opportunities for your littles that you didn't have. When I was little, I had no, a coach to me was somebody who coached you in sports or dance. And that was more of you've been a dance teacher, but a coach was, I wasn't interested in having a coach. I didn't want to play sports. Little did I know that a coach was going to change my whole entire life, save my marriage, improve my parenting, invest, use generational wealth, invest in your children. Anybody can use a coach, especially the impressionable young minds of our little humans. If this podcast was helpful, please give us a 5-star review and write a little snippet. That just helps so other people, that helps the algorithm so other people can see this and wherever platform you listen, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and share. If you found anything valuable from this beautiful interview with Dr. Seema Desai and I, please share this with a friend, a colleague, a daughter, a mother, an aunt, a confidant. You have the potential to save somebody else's life, save somebody else's relationship. Just elevate and create more joy in the world by sharing this episode. Thank you so much. So much love to you and your family.